Hey Dubes, how we doing today? Welcome to an awesome new addition to Dube Radical. Thought I'd have a new category called Final Thoughts, where we really digest the game, have had time to play it, and just kind of spew the thoughts and reasoning I had to play this game. So thank you so much for joining me with you guys. Hope you guys are all having a great day, but let's get right into it. All right, so Resident Evil 3 in quotations remake. Final thoughts. Just a little bit of a disclaimer here. I'm trying to look at this game as its own game, setting aside what we've had before from the source material. I really want to give this game a chance on its own right and its own merits. So I will have some little bits about things about from the OG as opposed to the new G here. But let's get more into it here. I'm just happy that we even received a remake in the first place. I'm trying to be a little woke on that sense where I'm just so glad that Capcom pushed this game out after the stunning and really awesome Resident Evil 2 remake. So I just want to kind of clarify things that have been going around this game, and I totally agree that this game is more of a re-envisioning than a remake. It seems Capcom really did take some more liberties to change some of the pacing, some of the areas, and we'll have this more of a bullet point section later on here. It's just kind of strange the liberties that they did take in this remake as opposed to the things that they did in Resident Evil 2 remake, where it felt more of a truer retelling of Resident Evil 2 in the pacing and in the gameplay, and then a lot of the level design and the aspects. It just felt more of a copy paste than this, where this is definitely more of a repolish than more of a remake. And I actually did take a poll on a Facebook group, Resident Evil Veterans. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And the general consensus here is yes, this is a 7 to 8. I took a bunch of scale of 1 to 10, and there's definitely some zeros. There's definitely some 10s here. There was definitely a lot of people. It's just so divided, whereas Resident Evil 2 Remake was more of a clear cut. This game is the way it should be done. But this sparks for really good discussion here, and I have some great fun gameplay. This is my scrub nightmare run, by the way, so sorry for the noob gameplay here, but I thought it's fun. It really kind of shows everything about this game that encapsulates what you'd be doing, what's going on. But yeah, let's just get into the good stuff here. This is, let's just say, the standout graphics. The Resident Evil engine that Capcom has created for their own team is still hard at work here. Makes the facial animations and motion capture feel very lifelike and unprecedented and almost unparalleled. We're on the twilight of this generation, and these are still some of the better looking games that we're going to see until next gen here. Yeah, sure, there are some reused assets from Resident Evil 2 Remake, but I just got to applaud Capcom for still giving the game the polish it really deserves here. With enemy design, the blood splatter, and even the side characters, Nikolai, they all look really great, including, I actually really like the redesign of Nemesis. He's definitely looking scary, and I love that they kind of form him more from a human and give him a little more light here. But we'll get into some Nemesis later. The gameplay still feels very true from what they did in RE2 Remake, and even from how they started things from Resident Evil 4. I think Capcom has finally found that perfect blend of classic Resident Evil gameplay with newer, more modern design mechanics, and the addition of the dodge button feels great here, especially since this is more of an action-focused Resident Evil title, and they really did make it feel true to how RE3 was more action-focused and faster paced than RE2 was. And I'm not really trying to compare this to RE2 too much, but it just seems like RE2 really did a lot of things right, where this game kind of miffed a lot of people off, and not because it's more action-focused, but mostly because of the things that we'll talk about in a little bit here. But I just want to say it was very necessary, and I think the gameplay here is very solid and feels very right in a modern sense, and still feels very Resident Evil here. It's very movie-like. I love God of War. Granted, there are cuts in this game, but the polish and the fidelity of the characters and the way things just kind of keep moving, it does feel great. And you could almost play this as a movie experience with stunning graphics and have a great time with it. I do want to give a standout plus that I did enjoy the playthrough here. I did enjoy the gameplay. I was always looking forward to the next thing, and trying to keep everything out from the Resident Evil 3 remake and just trying to play this as its own standalone, I'm going to say action horror game, not survival horror. Survival horror is more Resident Evil 2 geared. And I do like that they give you higher, harder difficulties with a little bit different enemy placements, kind of more stuff driven towards multiple playthroughs, and that kind of where the problems start here. But I just want to give a huge shout out to the gameplay, the graphics, and just the overall thing that is Resident Evil 3 here. And again, remake in quotations, I'm going to say retelling. But here is some of the things, the quips I had just from the game itself. The content period is definitely a little lackluster here, not only from looking at what we had from RE3 OG. There's definitely some things Capcom should have done more. It's very clear that they were making this game alongside Resident Evil 2, and we didn't even know it at the point yet, but they seem like they definitely put a lot more time into Resident Evil 2, fleshing out a little bit more. We had technically 4 full campaigns, which was very awesome. Felt very fully fledged. So it's just a little strange that Capcom has decided to go this route of, so we got the Resident Evil 3 base game, and then we have Resistance bundled in with this game that kind of accounts for some of the missed content. I'm going to say accounts in quotes here. I've only played a couple matches of Resistance. I'm mostly excited for this game for the actual base campaign here, but I had to try it out, and bottom line, I just can't really recommend it being its own thing. There was a couple bugs that felt a little glitchy, little laggy online. Still very fun, and I'm sure that it'll give it some longevity. You do have to download Resistance separately from the base game here, but overall, it's kind of a botched kind of add-on that feels kind of weird, and almost like they were maybe going to do Resistance as its own launch game, or maybe they were running out of time and decided to kind of just bundle Resistance along with this game. Really hard to say there, but as far as Resistance, I'll give them brownie points for giving this, and I was really excited at first, but there is DLC coming down the line for Resistance, so there will be some add-on content here, but I really hope they do, Capcom takes maybe a little bit and add some things to the single-player campaign. But more of just the content, or lack of costumes. Just there's so many modders that make a lot of cool costumes in a day or two, and I just don't know why Capcom couldn't add a couple more. Again, we got that in Resident Evil 2. It just kind of seems like a back step for the content. I'm just going to kind of keep getting into it here alone, just because it's where they've been and where they've came. It seems like maybe they have plans for future stuff, and it seems Capcom is very busy here. So this game was kind of maybe just the added on version of the series, because now all the Resident Evil games have been remade in some variety or form. Even Resident Evil Code Veronica came out on the Dreamcast, and they actually did remake that for the PS2, Code Veronica X, with added stuff, and that was really awesome. So we'll see what happens there. But it just feels, with the lack of, it doesn't feel like a complete true Resident Evil experience with the lack of puzzles. I actually really do enjoy the backtracking. We didn't really get that a lot here, and some people, maybe more of the modern gamers, really will like that it's more of a linear, straightforward experience. But going into this game, I really think you're going to have different views on it. If you're a hardcore Resident Evil fan, or more of a casual Resident Evil fan, there's just certain mechanics that are going to ring truer for most people that are familiar with the series and that aren't. And for me, I am that classic Resident Evil experience type person. So I was just really taken aback by the lack of puzzles, just period. And I'm not trying to look at the original, but just in both senses, just I was really looking forward to the time clock puzzle. Even the water puzzle in the newer version here, I'm going to say, just label this as missed opportunities. And just as far as the lore, I wish Capcom took a little bit more time to connect the lore, and maybe a little bit more connections between Resident Evil, even 1, 2, and 3, if they're giving all this time to give us remakes or re-envisionings. I wish maybe they tied the characters a little bit more. Granted, there is some really cool connections between Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 that you'll see play out in the story, and I have the gameplay kind of playing right here to not spoil too much, but to still give you a good interpretation of what you'll be doing this game. This is the only costume that you can technically unlock for Jill, by the way, is the first STARS uniform, and then the uh, pre-order DLC is her original outfit that I can't really include because you either have to pay for it or had to pre-order it there. But anyway, there still is content. They do have a shop here, which does give you some added bonuses for a story playthrough, and that's where kind of the padding feels like it's a little bit rushed and pushed, where you will beat the game, you'll get some points, and you can unlock, like, let's just say the infinite rocket launcher. So there is a bunch of goodies there that still feel very tried and true to your original Resident Evil experience. It seems like most people here are miffed about the length of the game. And generally, Resident Evils always have been shorter experiences, especially when you master them and you play through them. But once you beat them, you kind of know, it's kind of like Shadow of the Colossus a little bit. You kind of know how to get through and how to play them. And the store kind of does feel tacked on, and it really makes the game a whole lot easier when you have, like, let's just say, infinite weapons. So I just wish maybe they spent a little bit more time in the shop, giving us some more meaningful things. Hey, granted, there is some really cool stuff like the hot dog or butter knife where it kind of heats up. And so there's some cool stuff here that give you some added bonuses to play multiple playthroughs, and that's really where you'll get more replay value out of this game. Is kind of playing through the game more and over again. But over the second or third time, it's hard to say whether, again, back to the old school Resident Evil fans to the new school Resident Evil fans, if mostly some of those newer Resident Evil fans will even care to go back and play. I think most of these subsequent playthroughs will really just come in stronger with original Resident Evil fans to really get that nitty-gritty experience. And it is cool that the harder difficulties do have different enemy placements and just some things. This is my scrub run through on Nightmare, by the way. I can't remember if I mentioned that, but sorry for the scrubbiness here. But I just figured I'd show you some immersive kind of what we have going on with gameplay here. But from a remake standpoint, it's just missing a lot of content that I was really looking forward to, like the clock tower, really specifically that time clock puzzle in the lab and in the park. I'm really just missing some things here. So I think you really have to separate yourself from, again, the remake to the reimagining here. And it just keeps drawing me back to, man, what happened here? Because just the Resident Evil 2 remake was so true, and they pretty much had everything. They even had the alligator scene. I mean, and that must have been a very expensive little bit that they just had there. So it just makes me keep thinking, oh, this could have been so much more. But again, I'm really trying to let this game live on its own merits. It's just really hard when I was so excited to see some of these things reimagined here. But that's okay. I kind of talked about the unlockables and just the missing content. And where's the Mercs mode? I know they kind of incorporated this, but it's just that. And Nemesis, the downgrade, whatever there, I really liked them. It did feel more of like, when you start the game here, you really do feel like it's reimagining the first one. I love the opening scene. It really gets into the nitty-gritty. Again, that action movie experience. And it's really cool just seeing Nemesis lurk and stalk kind of like he did. But, when you get through most of the game, he really does become more of a set-piece battle. And I really do miss shirtless Nemesis that still kind of bogged you down through the later half of the original. But again, that's okay. They still are great set pieces, even if some of them are a little not as well done and just kind of tagged on. But anyway here, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and give my final thoughts here. We are going to go ahead and give this game an 8 out of 10. I really want to give it a 9, but I want to push Capcom just a little bit for them to, kind of draw them out to maybe a more of a solidified game here. But I love seeing Jill and Carlos come back. there's just a lot of things that I was just missing. But I like that we finally have the perfect blend of the things here from Resident Evil, old school Resident Evils and new school Resident Evils. But yeah, guys, that is going to do it for us today. 8 out of 10 Resident Evil reimagining, I'm going to call it. It was a great experience. I really do recommend it, especially if it's discounted. I can't justify the $60 price points, but I will say if it's discounted, definitely grab it, get it, give it a chance. You could easily rent this game, beat it in one sitting. The average playthrough does take about 5 to 6, 7 hours there, depending on what you're really looking for there. But overall, I love my experience. Really interested to see where Capcom goes forward with this. Seems like we will be getting Resident Evil 4 remakes, hopefully Code Verona remakes, and Resident Evil 8, and finally just keep the series going. But don't want to get too long, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this first ever Final Thoughts, and we'll see you guys next time.